I discovered a cursed game in my attic. Now shadows haunt my home day and night. I never should have opened that door. The creaking sound echoed through the quiet of my house, a warning I chose to ignore. Behind it lay my attic, a place I hadn't ventured into for years. Dust motes danced in the tiny beam of light that spilled through the single, grimy window. The air was thick and stale, almost suffocating. A chill ran down my spine. Every box was a memory, each one covered in a thick layer of dust, hiding secrets I had long forgotten. But it was the game that caught my eye. Tucked away amid old photos and yellowing books, the box was ornate. Dark wood, intricate carvings, and a strange, unsettling symbol carved into the lid. My heart raced. There was something about it, something oddly magnetic that I reached for it, my fingers brushing against the cool surface. I shouldn't have touched it. A shiver curled around me. A whisper danced through the attic, barely audible, but achingly close. It felt like a voice. My heart thudded louder in my chest, drowning out the silence around me. As I pulled the box closer, the air seemed to grow colder. The dark spaces between the rafters twisted and turned, shadows flickering like restless spirits. I hesitated, the box heavy in my hands, as if it were a live animal thrumming with energy. I felt the sudden urge to open it. Inside lay a faded board, worn but curious, and tiny, grotesque figures, unlike any game pieces I had seen before. Their eyes, sunken and eerie, seemed to watch me. A chill swept through the room, gripping me tight. Every instinct screamed at me to put it back, to shut the door and leave the past sealed. But curiosity gnawed at me, insistent and undeniable. I unfolded the board. A whiff of something rotten hit my nostrils, sweet and sickening, making bile rise in the back of my throat. I gasped as a loud bang echoed behind me, like thunder crashing through the stillness. My pulse raced. I turned around but saw nothing, just darkness and shadows shifting. My mind fought to rationalize, but fear clung to me. With each moment, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. I felt a cold finger brush my neck. Panic surged. I needed to leave. I shoved the board back into the box, slamming the lid shut. The room felt alive, closing in around me, shadows creeping closer. Then, without warning, the attic door slammed shut. I lunged for it, my fingers trembling on the knob. It wouldn't budge. I was trapped. A chill wrapped around me like chains. The whispers crescendoed, a cacophony of voices sneering. I was not alone. Just then, from the darkened corner, a figure emerged. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. It was obscured by shadows, but I could feel its weight. Its presence was like ice in my veins. I screamed, but it echoed back at me as the darkness swallowed my voice. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The darkness seemed to shimmer, morphing and twisting as the figure stepped closer. I could finally make out a faint outline, grotesque silhouette, shifting in and out of reality like a mirage. It had a misshapen head and limbs that seemed too long, too thin, bending at angles contrary to the laws of humanity. My breath quickened. I could feel the frantic rhythm of my heartbeat in my ears, drowning out everything but the dread that coiled around me like a serpent ready to strike. Play with us, the figure rasped, its voice a wheeze that echoed eerily against the attic walls. The words slithered into my mind like a parasite, feeding off my fear. Don't you want to join the game? It grinned, revealing rows of jagged, yellow teeth that gleamed under the meager light. I staggered back, bumping into an old trunk. The impact sent a cloud of dust billowing into the air, and I choked, tears streaming down my cheeks. The game in the box thumped violently, as if something inside was alive, longing to be released. I could almost hear the tiny grotesque figures rattling against the sides, pleading for my attention. No. I shouted, finally finding my voice. The word came out stronger than I had expected, echoing defiantly through the shadows. Get away from me! But the figure only laughed, a gibbering sound that ricocheted around the attic, causing the very rafters to tremble. The whispers turned into shrieks, a chorus of tormented souls tangled in the very air that suffocated me. I could no longer distinguish their words. It felt like they were pulling me, begging me to listen, to yield to the darkness threatening to consume me whole. I darted toward the door, desperation lending strength to my trembling hands as I twisted desperately at the knob. It didn't budge. I fumbled backward when the floor creaked ominously beneath me, wooden beams groaning like old bones. The figure lunged forward, its long, elongated fingers clawing at the air, reaching for me with glacial precision. I screamed again, but the sound was swallowed by the malevolence surrounding me. Join us! Join the game! They begged in haunting unison, their voices wrapping around my mind, tightening like a noose. I turned back to the box, instinctively drawn to it. Images of playing, of laughter, of joy flared in my memory and I grimaced. Was it my old friends' voices I heard? The memories, sweet yet tinged with a sickly sweetness, clawed at my sanity. Before I could grasp why, my hand shot out, fingers brushing against the ornate lid of the box. As if fueled by some dark force, I opened it again. The board unfolded with a rustle like old bones breaking free from their prison, the game pieces lined up as if waiting for my command. The sickening smell enveloped me once more, an echo of decay that seemed to seep from the very ground beneath. My head whirled, and suddenly, I couldn't tell where reality ended and the game began. I felt myself teetering on the edge of an abyss, the shadows closing in, a clamoring mass of lost souls. I could just make out the figure's gleeful gaze, inches from my face, its grin stretching impossibly wide as it whispered again, "Now it begins." Then, from the darkness behind it, another figure began to materialize much larger, a monstrous shape with limbs that twisted like roots of a great, gnarled tree. Its eyes glowed like dying stars, and in that moment, I understood what lay ahead. The choice was no longer mine. I was part of something much larger, something far more terrifying that lurked in the depths of the shadows. I felt the cold tendrils of the game clutch at my heart, trying to pull me into the depths of despair. The attic door creaked open behind me. A rush of chilling wind swept through the room, and the shadows screamed in protest, swirling like a tempest. I turned sharply, confused and terrified, as a new presence stepped into the doorway, a familiar figure, someone I hadn't seen in years. "Help me!" I cried, recognizing the figure only half aiming to push through the veil of terror. But as my eyes met theirs, horror-struck, something was wrong. Their expression was vacant, eyes void of life, and yet, they clutched a game piece in their hand. "Join the game, brother," they beckoned in the same sinister tones as the figures in the attic. And then, the figures around me surged. As the shadows lunged forward, clawing for my soul, the last thing I remembered was my own scream mixing with the deafening wails of the abyss. The box shut itself with a deafening clap, enveloping the attic in silence as the darkness finally swallowed me whole. The cursed game had started. The players were ready, and I was on the board, but I may not have been alone. The silence that followed felt like a death knell, oppressive and thick as the air around me hummed with an unearthly vibration. I was trapped within an impenetrable dark, my senses straining against the emptiness that buzzed with distant whispers, taunting and ever-present. The world beyond the box had faded, reduced to memory, and I realized that there was no way out. The attic was now a realm unto itself, unknowable and hostile. "Now it begins," the laughter echoed in my ears, a sinister melody that echoed around the enclosure, causing the shadows to pulse with malevolence. I could feel the board of the game beneath me, its surface cold and unyielding. Slowly, involuntarily, my hand reached out to touch it, fingers brushing over the game pieces nestled against the velvet-lined walls. The figures danced in and out of view, their misshapen bodies flitting just beyond the edges of my vision, weaving in patterns that made my skin crawl. They called to me with words, but with a chilling kind of familiarity, as if they recognized me from a life long forgotten. In the haze of time, I glimpsed flickers of childhood playing in the park, laughter bubbling in a way that now felt like a cruel joke. But with each pulse of the game board, with each flicker of the grotesque faces lurking within the shadows, that old joy twisted into something sinister. It became a sick longing, feeding my terror. I could sense the imminent horrors of the game beginning to unfurl, seeping into the very marrow of my being. Suddenly, a low growl erupted from the figure at my side, the grotesquerie revealed in full a confluence of nightmares. Its eyes glowed with a feral hunger, its grin widening until it seemed to stretch across its entire face, exposing an insatiable void that promised despair. "Your turn," it crooned, reaching out a claw-like hand toward the game pieces, beckoning me to join this macabre engagement. With a jolt, I broke away, wresting myself from the phantoms that whispered and clawed at my sanity. My heart pounded violently as my gaze darted around frantically, searching for an exit, for a shred of light or a means of escape. I stumbled backward against the wall, the ancient wood splintering beneath my weight, vibrating with a resonance of despair. "Make a choice," they chorused, voices intertwining, reverberating through the timber, wrapping around me like a cocoon. My breathing turned ragged as I realized they were not just summonings, they were demands. I had to play.